Welcome. My name is Lindsay Russell. For my project, I studied Iowa's open U.S. House seat. We currently have a six-way undecided tie within the Republican Party as a result of Tuesday's primary. I will introduce you to all of the candidates and discuss what that means. On Tuesday, the Democratic side was much different. Current State Senator Stacey Appel ran unopposed, and she will unquestionably be on the ballot in November. You can see that she's quite a formidable candidate, and you can see that she has many qualifications for office. So I'll let you take a moment to read that. And now we get into the first of the Republican candidates. The candidate with the largest percentage of the vote at 26.5% was current Iowa State Senator Brad Zaun. Despite gaining that percentage of the vote, he failed to obtain 35% of the vote, which is needed for the primary to be uncontested. He currently represents District 20 in the Iowa Senate. And you can see that he also serves on many important committees. And he also served as the mayor. Candidate number 2 was Robert Kramer, He gained 21.2% of the vote. He is still very much in the race. If he forms a coalition with someone else, he may gain the support he needs to win it. He is the only candidate running as a social conservative, and despite stating that he is not a career politician but a small business owner, he has a lot of civic experience that is very comparable to political experience. So you can see his qualifications there. Candidate number 3 is current Secretary of State of Iowa, Matt Schultz. He also gained over 20% of the vote in the primary on Tuesday. So he's still a viable candidate. He was first elected Secretary of State in 2010, and there is some controversy surrounding him concerning emergency voter rules he made just prior to the election in 2012, aimed to ensure that non-citizens couldn't vote in the election. He also served as Council Bluffs City Council member from 2005 to 2010. Now we are moving on to candidates 4 through 6. None of these candidates received over 20% of the vote, and they are unlikely to be the Republican nominee for the November election. However, they're very interesting candidates. Number 4 is Monty Shaw, who received 16.9% of the vote. He's involved in the renewable fuel industry, probably ethanol. You also have candidate number 5, David Young, who has served as an aide and as chief of staff for U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley, and he received 15.6% of the vote. Perhaps the most interesting candidate of all is Joe Grandinette. He is a elementary physical education teacher and coach. He's held that position for 26 years. He's also owned his own business, and he only received 1.6% of the vote. The inconclusive results of Tuesday's primary have left Iowa Republicans wondering what's next. Where do we go? So the next step is the Iowa Republican Party will nominate a candidate at their June 21st convention. Frankly, they had to create that convention as a result of the primaries. However, not everybody thinks that the Iowa Republican Party should just nominate a candidate. U.S. Representative Steve King, who happens to be the last politician in Iowa nominated via convention, he thinks there should be a runoff election. If you want to read more about his thoughts, I included the article there. He feels that candidates should be made to demonstrate that they can get 35% of the vote. It'll make a more viable candidate. I also came across an interesting YouTube video that describes everything you need to know about the next steps. So what conclusions can we draw from the Republican primary in Iowa that took place last Tuesday? First of all, it highlights the importance of political parties. It looks as though the Iowa Republican Party is going to have quite a choice ahead of them, and it's not necessarily going to reflect the views of all voters. They're not going to have a say who ultimately ends up on the November ballot. I also noticed that there was quite a diversity of experience. On the Democratic side, you have a candidate whose experience is almost exclusively in politics and corporate America. On the Republican side, you had a lot of candidates that had real-world experience within industry, even education, as well as the political experience. So I felt that all of the candidates on both sides were quite well qualified. The demographics, I can't really say it surprised me very much, but I think it highlights a frustration that a lot of people feel, particularly on the Republican side, that here we have 6 candidates and every single one of them is a male Caucasian. On the Democratic side, obviously you have a Caucasian female. I was pleasantly surprised to see how much great information there was out there for voters. And on my next slide, on the last slide, I have included all of my sources. Thank you.